Hello everyone and welcome back to the Sandy Jones Show with me, Sandy Jones, and today we're going to be talking about a gig review of a gig I went to on Saturday last week, 8th of June 2024, and that was this band right here, Tool. This was at the Wuhlheide Parkbühne in Berlin, which is an open amphitheatre venue. It's really quite breathtaking when you're there. Let's just get right into it, okay? So the venue itself was really fascinating. I've been to another venue in Berlin called Waldbühne, which is essentially the same, but just a little bit bigger. And when we were actually approaching the gig, I was thinking, I've got my wires crossed or something, because I thought this was exactly the same venue, yet just a little bit different. You approach it, it's in the middle of a wood, a forest next to a park. You're kind of walking through the park, and then you start to approach. And this is something, I guess, like point one in terms of the venue. This is definitely an old school venue, and you can tell that it was built in the 1930s, I think, here in Germany. And it was not designed in such a way to facilitate the quick movement of people. You know, they didn't have that kind of understanding or technology at the time. So as we're approaching it, it's already absolutely packed with people. There's lots of different entrances and loads of different queues. And to be honest, the Germans just love to queue. They're like the Brits. There's just queues for this, queues for that, queues for the toilets, queues for the kiosks, people selling beer, queues for hot dogs, queues for merchandise, and that's all outside of the gig. So already you get there, you're a bit like, whoa, I'm kind of overwhelmed. I don't even know where to go. There's some signage that kind of helps you get there just about. I was very lucky this time. A dear friend of mine managed to sort out a couple of tickets. So it was even harder, what a problem this is, but to try and find the place where you pick up your tickets that are on the guest list. So we kept kind of getting lost, going down this way, trying to find people in yellow vests just to get a little bit of help. Not because they were protesting in yellow vests, but because they were stewards outside the gig. And eventually someone was like, okay, yeah, you need to go all the way around the venue, turn left, then turn right, then walk through the children's park, then go here, then go there, then go through the queue of people that are queuing into the main entrance on the other side of the building. And then there's a tiny little walkway where you'll see Kasse, like a ticket office. And that's where you need to go. So it's like, okay, mission accomplished, let's go. I'm buzzing at this point because I absolutely love Tool. I like their older stuff. To be honest, I haven't listened too much to their new stuff. The Fear Inoculum album, I've listened to it through plenty of times, but it's not my my era. Like I was obsessed with Lateralis, Schism, Enema, 46 and 2, Sober, Hooker with a let's be kind to the YouTubes and all that, and just so many songs, like I watched tribute bands of them. Oh yeah, by the way, this video will definitely feature my cats because they're being absolutely crazy right now, running around. So if you hear meowing, if you see them jumping around on top of me, it's all good. They're just part of the show. They're in the Sandy Jones Show too. So I'm excited about this gig. I can't believe that it's been this long. I've never seen Tool live. I've been listening to them for 25 plus years. And here we are, guest spot coming up from one of the cats. You'll see in a second. The adrenaline is starting to grow. I'm thinking like, oh my God, this is going to be an absolute carnage of a show. People are going to be going crazy. There's so many fans. This is an absolutely loved band. So there's swathes of people coming in, all different kinds of metalheads. Like long hairs, punks, like kind of more like modern, sort of like emo-y, gothy, and then even just like average, normal looking people. Everyone's there for Tool. We're buzzing. So I'm thinking this is going to be mental. This is going to be mosh pits. This is going to be, just what I had in my mind was like a early 2000s Tool gig with, Maynard choking someone out on stage, or just absolutely chaos ensuing. And as soon as we luckily got all the tickets and everything sorted, picked them up, go inside, you reach, because like I said, it's an amphitheatre. So you come into the venue. It's all obviously outdoors, and you're at the top level. So you can there's kiosks, there's merchandise, there's bars, there's all this kind of stuff. And then you go down into the amphitheatre. There's kind of seats and descending sort of stair seat situation in a round. And then you go down into the bottom, and then there's the floor. So I've been to the other venue, like I said, that's exactly the same, just bigger. And in that venue, this is kind of what I was expecting for this gig, was that there was just a floor with standing, just chaos, mosh pits, do whatever you want, that kind of thing. And then seating area with no assigned seats. So you just, again, first come, first served. Half the people sit in the seats, half the people stand on the floor. And that's kind of what I was expecting. So first surprise, which it's not like a positive or a negative. It's just like a notable thing that was there. Looked at the tickets, and it had a seating number on it, like at a football stadium or something. It said, seat row 8, seat X, whatever it was. And I was like, that's interesting. Like, how's that? Like, it does that mean that we've got assigned seats in the descending kind of stairway bit, and then the floor is standing? Or how's this? I just was surprised to see assigned seats. So I was already a little bit confused. We got a drink, got a bite to eat, watched the support from the top. And then as we're kind of watching the support, I realized the whole floor and the whole descending stairs, the entire amphitheatre is seated. This whole gig is seated. So we have ticket seats for the floor, and you have a specific seat. So we go down the stairs once the first band's finished. Last trip to the toilet, which again was an absolute, to be fair, a bit of a nightmare. These old venues were not designed for people movement. Took ages to get in, to get out, the queues, the argy-bargy. Like, luckily the Germans are pretty polite and orderly, and they kind of follow the cues and try and make something of it. But I can imagine that if there's any kind of issue, then it would have been tough for everyone to just run out at the same time. It was a real kind of like crushy type vibe. Anyway, going down the steps, and I realized, wow, it's all seats, and it's just like your typical sort of like, like in the wrestling, those kind of metal foldable chairs arranged on the floor in rows, probably like several thousand of them. It's a big thing. But I'm just like, wow, so there's literally no standing area at all. This is interesting. It's fascinating. My first thought was quite neutral. I was like, wow, that's neither good nor bad. It's just not what I was expecting, but let's see how it goes. And because they were so squeezed together, and there's a lot of like bigger, big tall people and so on, it was a little bit difficult to see. So I'm not the tallest person in the world. Neither was the person who I was with. And of course, there just so happened to be a couple of really big dudes just in front of us. So when everyone is standing, you can kind of like look around a little bit, but the security is really on it to make sure that everyone is standing or sitting at their seat. There's no like kind of leeway to be standing in the hall, in the walkway, or walking around or anything. Like when the action's happening, you're in your seat. And if you deviate by a few inches, a security guard comes and sternly but politely tells you to go back in. So you're kind of just stuck in this one little spot. And this is, I guess, my first reservation about this setup was because there's no designated standing area, I'd say like 80 to 90% of people are standing the whole time in their seat, in their area, and the seat's just like there. So the seat's kind of in the way. You can't really stand properly. So Tool come out one by one. The drummer obviously is kind of the centerpiece of the show. He sits in the middle. Then comes the guitarist, then comes the bassist, and then of course comes Maynard in the corner on his own level. And he's doing his movements and everything, and I'm thinking, this is great. They kick it off, and then everyone's kind of just like vibing, and it's then I quickly realized, like, this is not the kind of gig that I thought I was going to. This isn't a chaotic, mosh pit ridden, sweaty, swirly mess of, you know, crazy metalheads seeing this incredible band that we all love. This felt like from minute one, for better or worse, like more like an evening with Tool. It was like going to watch something in a theatre, or to go and watch the orchestra play a symphony, or to the opera, or to the ballet, or something like that. It felt more like that. It felt like going to see a seated spectacle and just to enjoy it and take it in. So again, it's kind of like good and bad, because part of me and my sort of metalhead, you know, desire to have that, you know, camaraderie and the mosh pit and all of that kind of energy and all that, you have to kind of just get rid of that expectation and just let it die. And then the other part is like, wow, because there's none of that, we can all really just focus on the music and the sound and the visuals, which were so cool. So as I said, it's all open air, and it was 8 p.m. when the show started, but because it's summer, it's still like bright. So I'd say like 80% of the concert was under sunlight, or like at least light, daylight. So the visuals, we were luckily quite close to the front, so you could see it. But I would imagine they would have been much more impactful had there been like a roofed gig. But they were incredible. The sound was unbelievable, and yeah, that was just, I guess, quite a sort of surprising thing. So another, just to kind of lead on from that, we here in Berlin, there's a very much a culture, especially in the kind of clubbing scene and so on, and even in the privacy laws that are part of Germany and Berlin City, that it's kind of frowned upon and discouraged, and sometimes even banned, to take photos and videos during certain events, club nights. Certain clubs don't allow it. They even make you put stickers on your phones and things like that. So that's kind of expected, or at least slightly normal here. It's not like that in the UK. It's not like that in America. You know, everyone's filming everything. So I saw a couple of signs taped around the venue saying, today we have a 100% no camera policy. Please do not film or take photos of anything during the show, or you'll be ejected. You know, we saw like these papers kind of all over the venue, and I was thinking, really, are they going to enforce that? Like, that's nuts. This is an absolutely huge gig. How are they really going to enforce that? And the first thing is, Maynard came out and sort of addressed the crowd and said, you know, something along the lines of, we are doing that, like, please, it's really annoying, it takes people out of the moment, it's frustrating, don't film anything. And then he said, we'll allow you to film the last song, so just enjoy the gig, enjoy the moment, and be present with us. And everyone was like, yeah. And again, it's not as crazy as if he was to say that, for example, in Paris or London or anywhere else where that's not quite as typical. But it was really kind of cool, because in the first moment, you're like, wow, okay, so there's not going to be any phones. You're not even thinking about your phone. You're not thinking about anything. No one has got their phone out. Everyone was really respectful to this rule. And the first song starts, and it's just explosion of sound, and everyone's just engrossed. And like I said, there's no movement, so you're just standing there, just sort of like, wow, this is nuts. And then they kind of just went through a lot of newer songs. I'd say like 20 to 30% of the crowd was kind of nodding along and singing and so on. Everyone else was kind of just sort of just vibing it. and you're kind of standing up for a bit, you're sitting down for a bit, and it just wasn't like a metal concert I've ever been to. I've seen so many bands, so many like big bands doing their like 20, 30-year tours. Like I've seen, Meshuggah, I've seen Metallica, I've seen Slipknot, I've seen like Iron Maiden, I've seen Machine Head, I've seen so many bands. I've never once been to a gig of any kind that's in the heavy metal world that's all seated. So I keep banging on about it, but it was just genuinely like shocking. So and I know that might sound like it has a negative connotation, and perhaps slightly it does, but it also was, like I said, very interesting. And that's obviously something that they've thought about. So it had me thinking, like, what was the thinking? Why do they do that? Was it because they want people to be engrossed in this in the music only, and not to be kind of pushing and shoving each other? Perhaps the band members are just a little bit older, and they're just thinking, like, do you know what? We don't want to foster this ridiculously crazy energy of just, people swinging elbows and fists and stuff at each other for 90 minutes. We'd rather actually treat this as a professional music show. The tickets were priced very expensively. Like I said, I was very, very fortunate to have a very close friend who kind of sorted this out, because I had actually decided not to go to this gig because it was too expensive. I just simply couldn't afford it at the moment. So maybe that's it, is that, they because they've made it seating, there's maybe fewer people there because you can seat fewer people than you can stand. So they had to put the tickets up. Maybe it's more of like a premium live event that's more about the music than it is about the, your own physical experience in the venue. And that's why they did that. But just really fascinating. And like I can't get over it. I keep thinking about it, like, wow, saw Tool, and we were all in our seats, just kind of standing and sitting in this enormous, amphitheatre outside. So the gig rolls on, and the first like 4, 5, 6 songs, they're killing it. They're doing really, really well, absolutely loving it. And then they played the first, proper show-stopping hit, Schism. Just everyone knows that. Everyone, I've got goosebumps now, just that feeling that everyone's like, yes, let's fucking go. And it's just like, that's the first song where everyone is singing. Like 90% of people are on their feet. We're all just vibing. We're all going for it. Again, just in our spot. You kind of lean out a little bit into the aisle, and then quickly a big, tall, massive security guard with tattoos and jacked is just like, "Können Sie bitte mal rein?" Like, get inside. And I'm like, all right. So really, you're just on the spot, just vibing. I'm like air drumming. I'm having a good time. And I'm just thinking, like, this gig is going like a crescendo. It's like newer songs, a couple of classics, and then Schism. And then it keeps going and going and going. They played a couple more songs. And then all of a sudden, where I thought there was like a high point, it just set a 10-minute timer. This massive 10-minute timer came on the screen, and then started counting down from 10 minutes, and the house lights kind of went up. And I was like, oh my God, this is an intermission. This is so fascinating. Like, when has anyone ever done a metal concert with an intermission? This really felt like going to watch a big comedy act in a theater, or an orchestra or a symphony, like I say. 'Cause a 10-minute intermission, it was nuts. Like, I find that so interesting, so risky, so I don't know, arty, so wild, in a completely different way that they decided to do that. So 10 minutes counting down, people are milling around, getting drinks, going to the toilet. You have to go all the way back up the stairs to the top part of the amphitheatre to go to the toilet, to buy drinks, to do anything. Luckily, veteran of gigs, I haven't been chinning beers and so on. I was very tactful about what I drank in order to not have to go back up to pee. And then, yeah, the clock counts down from 10 all the way down to 10 minutes is done. And then they start again. So it's like, okay, part 2 of the show, like as if you were in a matinee at the Royal Opera House, you know, it was nuts. And the second part starts. Drummer comes out and he's been wearing this kind of lycra skin tight bodysuit thing the whole show that looks like anatomy, like human anatomy. You can see like lungs and heart and things like that from the outside. And this time he's kind of standing facing away from the crowd, and you can see that he's got lights that work on the suit, and they're lighting up the 7 chakras on the body. So it's like red for the base chakra on the end of the spine, the tailbone, going up the colors, and there's a real pop of energy. You know, people are like, wow, this is so cool. He comes on, does an incredible drum solo. He turns around, he's got these ridiculously huge, eccentric, eclectic, symphonic electric machines. I can only imagine that this is like the machines that gave birth to electronic music. You know, it felt like when you go and watch a dub gig in Bristol or something, and they're using these sound systems that are actually upright. It's not like decks or anything. And he's twisting knobs and he's playing this massive gong with the drums and so on. It's just absolutely awesome. Like what? And again, because you're not. It was interesting because you're not, you know, getting punched in the face and sweating and wondering where your friends are and all that stuff. You're just standing or sitting in one place. You can really appreciate what's actually going on in a totally different way. Then the bassist comes out, he does a solo, the guitarist comes out, everything kind of like rolls back in, and they play a couple more classics. I think they play one more song off the album. And then that's pretty much it. They sort of just, the second half of the show was a lot shorter than the first, or at least it felt like it. I feel like it was only 3 or 4 songs in the second half. And I believe they finished on Stinkfist or something of that level. I think it was Stinkfist. And everyone's just vibing and so on. And that's the one where they said, guys... And here's another interesting point, a little bit all over the place, but here's another interesting point. Maynard didn't really address the audience that much. Right at the beginning, the Please Don't Film, and he was just like, you know, Berlin. I don't believe you, one more time. Come on, you can do better than that. And then the gig started. And then right at the end, he just said, you know, Berlin, one more time. Boy, you guys sound like Paris. Boo. Try it one more time. Hey. Like it was like that kind of a very, very simple crowd interaction. And then he says, you can film this last song. And that was it. They played the last song. It was incredible to see what it looks like when however many tens of thousands or 5,000 or however big this thing is, half the people pull out their phones and start filming. Admittedly, I took a little 10-second clip as well.
Light off, come down. Light off, come down. Light off, come on. Come on.
Just how much of a difference that makes to the energy, you know, like it really is distracting. You're looking more at the people filming than you are the thing. So I appreciate that they did what they did. And I like how they also told people, you know, you're not going to not be able to film anything. We're going to let you film the last song. And that was it. You know, they ended the last song, and you could feel immediately there's not going to be an encore. That's it. That's the piece. The art is done. That's it. You've seen Tool, and you're done. That's my cat scratching a scratch pad behind the camera. The other one. This one's here. And that was it. That was it. I think, I'm trying to think if I've missed anything. So yeah, that was it. Basically, in summary, it feels like I was able to be part of something that was really interesting, really unusual in terms of a metal gig from a band that is, you know, has been around for this long and are still touring and still making music. I just went to see Meshuggah not that long ago, who are in a similar kind of situation. They've been going since the early 90s, I believe. And, you know, their show was just absolutely carnage. It's what you expect from a Meshuggah show. I saw them, I think, 8 years ago to when I last saw them. And it was kind of just more of the same. You know, if anything, just a bigger venue. It seems like younger crowd and so on. This really did felt like a night with Tool, an evening with Tool, like Tool unplugged, although it wasn't unplugged. But that's kind of what it felt like. And I'm just really glad that I was able to be a part of it, because despite the fact that I wasn't able to ever go to one of those 90s or 2000s shows where Tool were, you know, the wildest band doing the wildest things, and just you get what you expect in that situation. The more I think about it, you can have that experience with any band. That is every single metal concert. I don't think there's many bands that could pull off what those guys did. I find it really interesting that they decided to do it that way. I'd love to know a little bit more about it, like why they did that. And what an incredible gig, what an incredible venue, despite the, you know, logistical issues, despite the people management situation, which wasn't ideal. It is what it is. It's just like that at the Olympic Stadium here. It's like that in a lot of the older venues and the older clubs and stuff. It's just not designed like the newer ones, like the Verti Music Hall and stuff, which is just perfect in terms of getting people from A to B, the toilets and all that stuff. But without getting bogged down into all of that, what an incredible gig. So if you were at the gig, let me know what you thought about it. You know, did you like all of the things that I've commented on? Did you not like them? If you weren't at the gig, but you're a fan of the band, did you enjoy this summary? Did you enjoy, or at least find interesting these insights? Let me know. Just let me know what you think. It's made me more of a Tool fan than I was before, if anything. And that's it, really. So that's the end of this gig review. Thanks for watching. My name is Sandy Jones from The Sandy Jones Show. Stay tuned for more. See you next time.